Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. Behind me is a 2005 Porsche 911. It's a Carrara S model, and it's a blast to drive. I love the car. I've owned it for about 2 months, and I've driven it for about 1,000 miles so far, and my experience has been awesome. The reason I can afford such a beautiful car behind me is because of one main issue, and that is fear. There are a couple of engineering issues that plague this type of car. One issue is the IMS bearing issue, prevalent in the 996 models as well as the early 997 models. When the IMS bearing goes, if you haven't heard of this issue, it is the timing shaft bearing, and what happens is the engine will come in and smack the top of the valves because the timing chain has slipped off the bearing. That causes lots and lots of engine damage when it happens, and it's extremely expensive to fix. Issue number 2 is an issue called cylinder bore scoring, and that's fancy for when the sides of the piston start digging into the cylinder walls and start scraping it with every movement in and out. It scrapes the side of the piston wall, and as the engine goes along, it starts eating itself. It starts spitting out all sorts of shavings and metal into your oil, and when it gets weak enough, it will crack your cylinder walls. Again, causing a very expensive issue to solve. But there are fixes for both of these issues. The IMS bearing issue, if you buy a car that is in running condition, you do not have an IMS bearing failure yet. You can easily buy that car, take it back and replace the bearing from anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 depending on your mechanical skills, or if you bring it to a mechanic, and that will fix the IMS bearing issue. The bore scoring issue is a little more dicey. That usually presents as a ticking or smoke out of the driver's side tailpipe. There'll be soot around the outside of the tailpipe, and when you start it up, there'll be some blue smoke that comes out the back. In my opinion, this issue is a little bit more sinister because it's not something you would think is all that catastrophic, right? But when you listen to the engine, it just makes a slight ticking sound. That's it. The engine runs fine otherwise. But once the cylinder starts scraping into the side of the wall, once the piston starts scraping into the side of the wall, you have a limited amount of time before the car just blows the engine. So I'll include a link down below in the description as to how to diagnose it. For me, it only took a $40 camera off of Amazon. I'll throw the link in the description too, which is a scoping camera. Actually, I have it right here. Let me go grab it. I want to show you guys the Borescoping camera. That is this right here. and it works with this Wi-Fi end and just hooks to your phone. That's it. Simple. You take out the spark plug, which is probably going to be about 30 minutes of your time on this car, and put that scope down through the spark plug hole and kind of spin it around. And what you'll see there is either a completely smooth cylinder, or it'll be very obvious if you have bore scoring issues. Cylinder number 6 is the worst usually in this car from what I read. So I would start off with that one. It's right on the passenger side, right behind the wheel here. Look at that one. If you don't find any bore scoring, continue on with the rest. But if you do find bore scoring, we're here to help. I'm going to show you the fix for that on my channel. That's what we're here to show. You know, it's funny. Before I bought this car, I was in negotiations with another private seller that had IMS bearing failure, which is just as devastating as bore score. The engine wasn't running. The guy was upfront about it and was selling it for under $10,000. I decided against it because I looked up how much it would cost to rebuild an engine, and it was a lot of money on these cars to rebuild an engine. If you head out to a mechanic and have this rebuilt, you're looking at upwards of $30,000. And the car just isn't worth that much from what I looked up. So instead, I went out to a dealer and found a car in good running condition. It was the color that I wanted, and you know, it had higher mileage. This car has 95,000 miles on it. You know, the 997s aren't very known for the IMS failures, but I was going to replace it anyway. That's not a big deal. So I bought the car. It ran great. No ticking. Didn't see any smoke that I could tell. So I chose to pay full price for the car and not get something that had an issue. That's what I wanted to do. It turns out I was really wrong on that. I've only had this car for 2 months. I've driven it less than 1,000 miles, and I noticed, you know, when I went to look at the oil, which is kind of odd on this car, the checking the oil is something you do through the dash when you first start it, not a dipstick or anything like that. So if you guys are looking for the dipstick on a 997 or a 996, it is not there. There's no dipstick. You measure it when you first turn the car on, and that tells you the oil level. Well, when I first got it home, the oil level was 3 quarts low. That was driving it home from the dealer. I filled it up, and then I said, I better take a look at how much oil this is burning, and I noticed that within the first 300 miles, it was burning a quart of oil. A quart of oil every 300 miles is a ridiculously high amount of oil for that mileage. Even low dealer specs for these says a quart of oil every 1,000 miles. And that's really being generous. It's a sports car. It takes a lot of oil. I understand that, but I decided I better check out the cylinders. And what you'll see on the screen in front of you is some of the bore scoring scoping that I did. And I had this backed up by a mechanic who also diagnosed the same problem. So I did what everybody would do. I contacted the dealer that sold me the car, and what happened next was really shocking. The dealer did talk to me. He got back to me and he said, "Wow, I'm really sorry about that. It's been 2 months now and there's really nothing I can do. You're outside the window of the lemon laws. So, sorry, bro." And he proceeded to offer me $1,500. Now, if you guys are watching the cylinder scope footage, and you're not a mechanic, then you probably should be cringing, because when you see scoring like that, I haven't seen worse scoring on the internet that I could find. But when you do find scoring like that, you know you're looking at a total engine rebuild. And if you took this to a mechanic, yeah, he'd probably charge you between $20,000 and $30,000. And honestly, that's probably more than this car is worth. So, I honestly didn't know what to do. The dealer refused to take it back. He managed to offer $1,500, which isn't much at all, especially when you're talking about a $20,000 repair. So I'm stuck. So, options. I could pursue a legal remedy here, spend years in court. And I still might. I don't know. I don't know what to do. The damage is catastrophic, and I went to the dealer specifically trying to avoid this problem. So if there's any New York lawyers out there, feel free to contact me. I feel like this car was misrepresented, honestly. But I could also do what JM Legend themselves suggested, which is to resell the car and make it somebody else's problem. Honestly, that was their suggestion. And that's not okay with me. That's not something I want to put out into this world. Honestly, I'm a programmer by trade, and I know what it's like to clean up other people's messes when they cut corners, or they're just trying to get something done. They're just trying to get theirs. This "I gotta get mine" culture, it puts all these problems at people's feet, and I'm just not about that. I'm not about putting that into the world. So I've chosen to not do that. I've chosen not to pass this problem on to another sucker, right? I chose to rebuild this engine. So I'm going to show you guys step by step, dropping this engine, taking it out, sending it off to a repair place to permanently fix these problems, both the IMS issue as well as the bore scoring issue. And we're going to rebuild this engine, we're going to put it back together, and then we're going to have a bunch of fun. That's what I want to do with this. The problem here is that I don't have, I wish I did, I don't have $30,000 to give to a mechanic. So this is going to be Less expensive, but still pretty damn expensive to rebuild an engine like this. This is a very complex engine. It's an aluminum engine. And there's a lot of engineering that went on with this engine. So what I'm hoping to do is to show you guys how to drop this engine out of the car and repair it and put it back in just in your average garage, right? I don't have those cool garages that are on YouTube everywhere. This is just my personal garage. And I'm going to fix it with these two hands and some tools. And what I hope to do is to show you guys that these cars are A, a ton of fun, and B, even in the worst case scenario, they're still pretty approachable. They're still pretty doable if you find an honest broker who's willing to tell you all the problems with the car. You can get a car pretty cheap. A really great sports car. And if you don't mind taking out a wrench and learning a little bit about an engine, you can have a really nice car at the end of this. This decision is going to cost me. It's going to cost me a lot. But the IMS and the bore score issue stops right here. I'm not going to let that out into the world. And I'm not going to let somebody else clean up my mess too. Before we get started, boys and girls, I'd like to give a shout out to a couple of channels that inspired me. I love Sam Crack. He did a 996 rebuild. Tavares is always getting himself into crazy situations like this, except hopefully he didn't overpay for the car. LNC Collision, you guys do awesome work. Hoovie's Garage, awesome fun channels. Also a shout out to Masante Motorsports. Chris, you were really supportive and sympathetic to what happened here. I'm sure you see this from time to time, and I'd like to say thank you to you. So let's get started. What I'm going to show on the screen and what's going to happen next is I'm going to take you through the step-by-step Pelican parts breakdown of removing this engine from the car. I hope you guys enjoy it. Sorry for the long rambling introduction. I wanted you guys to know what the backstory was here and why we're pulling this engine out. But I'll be showing you the step-by-step instructions of kind of taking this car apart and getting the engine out, tearing the engine down, sending it out to get the various parts fixed on it that need repair, and then putting it back in the engine. It's a pretty ambitious project. So if you guys like what you see here, please like and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be putting out some more step-by-step instructions, and really I'm going to need all the help and support I can get from you guys, because I like in the other channels that a lot of people will comment down below of crazy mistakes that the person made while they're doing the YouTube. And I'll probably need that because this will be my first Porsche engine rebuild. And so thank you guys for the support ahead of time. Alright, so that's it.
Let's light this candle.